Well, we're so excited to be at this point. And what we're here to talk about is a new home for NEC. And so we have been in this building for about 17, 18 years. And our lease is running out November 30th of this year. And so we are at a crossroads just from a practical standpoint. And so I want to start off by telling you why we're going to do what we're going to do and why it's such a good move for us. And I'm going to introduce a few folks to you, and they're going to chime in a little bit. We're going to keep the presentation really tight so we can allow time for Q&A. And we don't want to make this a very long presentation. About 5 minutes ago, gobs and gobs of information just got uploaded or activated to the web, and so there's lots of good information up there. But here's why we've called you all. And so I want to start by saying, everybody look down for a second and check out the floor. Yeah. You see the stripes and the scuffed up pavement and the paints and the coffee stains? Who in their right mind 18 years ago said, oh, let's build a place, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep it concrete, and we're not going to finish the walls, and you're going to be able to see the beams and the emergency lights and the blue tubes that pop. Who in their right mind would build a church like that? I'll tell you who, New England Chapel. Because New England Chapel has never been about a building. All right? And so we're here to tell you about a building, but I want you to know the whole reason behind this is not a building, but it's our mission. And we moved into this place and said, hey, let's remind people that church is not about a building. It's about God working through us, the community of God's people, to do his work, to do the mission he has called us to do. And that's why we don't give a rip about our cement floors and our ceilings and our half walls. It's about following God's lead collectively together. And so that has to be the backdrop for this. And so there's really two big whys of why we're not signing up for another 6 years here. And the first one is stability. And so basically, we spend about $23,000 a month on this place. And that's crazy, but that's the going rate. That's not outrageous. That's fair market value. And we know that if we were to negotiate any more, that $23,000 would go up, it would climb higher. And so from a very practical standpoint, from a financial stability standpoint, we know that owning is better than renting, hands down. And if we could just find a place where we can get a $2 million or a $2+ million mortgage, we could save significant amounts of money per month. And so that's one reason why we're making the move. The other reason is a little bit more, less practical, but equally missional. We want stability so we can steward the mission God has given us, but we want visibility. You know, even just a few months ago, I was getting a few of my hairs cut. And I don't really have a set place. I just bop around whatever's closest and open. Sorry, Kim, I don't go to you. I just locked eyes with a great hairdresser. I would, but you know. And so I'm talking to they always ask me what I do, and I always try to play hard to get, but I'll make a long story short. I've been talking about New England Chapel, and they're like, oh, I've heard of New England Chapel. Where is that? That's in Franklin. Oh, I've lived in Franklin all my life. We're in Franklin. We've always been the best kept secret. We've been here for 21 years. We've been in existence, and half the population of Franklin doesn't know we exist, or the extended towns outward. And so visibility is another key reason why we're excited about this property. And so last we talked, we were talking about a property on 140. And we're still talking about a property on 140, but just not Bellingham. We're talking about a property on 140 in Franklin. And so we just have signed an offer and the offer was countersigned for 300 East Central Street. Anybody know where that is? I think we have a map picture. It's the FICO Bolodrome. Yep. I feel like I'm doing one of those infomercials. And look, oh, and it oxidizes, and it's 7.6 acres, and the building, the existing building, is 21,150 square feet. And so I'll let John talk a little bit. So this is how it happened. The talks for Bellingham property, we're in this sort of limbo, and we're going back and forth, and we're never getting, we're just kind of stalled. And so while we're in this limbo period, in this stalled period, I drove the Big Y, and I was like, hey, there's a for sale sign up there. And so I took a snap of it, and I texted it to Matt. So I was actually driving when I did that? Not when I texted, just when I shot the photo. And then Matt called the realtor, got some information, and then for some reason, we weren't around for the first walkthrough, but John was. And so John was the architect that helped design first the 10,000 square feet, then this side of the building too. And so John was a perfect person to give us hey, this could be cool, or this is a terrible idea. And so, John, tell us about your experience.
Okay. Is this on? All right. First thing I'll say is I'll be much more brief than Mike just
Sorry.
said.
Yeah,
So Mike called me up and mentioned this, and I went there on a Sunday after church and took a look at the building. Called him back and said, this has legs. This looks good. You need to get in this building as quick as we can and look at it. Step back a little bit. We've been looking at properties and looking at buildings for at least 10 years. We've tried multiple times to get the owner of this building to sell us this building, and I feel bad because Jamie Noon and myself have just been bashing everybody's hopes for the last 10 years. Every time we look at a piece of property, we're like, nope, 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 nope. This one I felt different about. It has a parking lot. It has a good structure. It has an awesome location. We're right on 140. This is going to be just night and day from where we are now. Building's a little dated. We can do something about that. That's not going to be too hard. So, Mike, I was the only one that got to get in. I got to meet one of the owners and the realtor. I walked through the front door, and it is wide open inside. That's another wonderful thing. We don't have all kinds of structure to deal with. We don't have all kinds of other issues. We have a wide open building that we can do whatever we want with. So after that, I talked to Mike. I said, we need to get more people in. Everybody that's looked at it has had a positive feeling about it. That's really the first time that we've had as a group, everybody felt good about the property. Then the Bellingham thing came back into play a little bit, but it always had, we looked at the two options, and we just kept going back to the FICO, the location. The family was very, very happy that we were looking at not tearing the building down, but actually preserving it and working with it. I think they were very open to how we had to go through, the purchase of this. I think there were just a lot of positive things that kept coming up, and there were more and more negative things with Bellingham, as there were with many of the other properties that we looked at. So, I think it's a great property. I think we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of options, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to design this, to really make a space here that is going to be a lot of fun and still has that edginess that New England Chapel is all about. So.
And John has some cool ideas about how to, the bowling alleys are still in there. I mean, all the mechanisms are gone, but how to take up those lanes and use them as like paneling in the cafe or an entryway, or just kind of preserving. Because how many of you guys have bowled in FICOs? Yeah. We got a cool picture. It was really Peter showed that next slide. It's really been a family place for so long. And to be able to not to spiritualize this, but we're in the restoration business in a way, right? And to be able to sort of save and restore that so that the community can still benefit from there is just a cool little piece of that. So I want to move to costs now and talk numbers for a little bit. And so we are purchasing the land and the building for $2.250, so $2,250,000 for 7.5 acres and the building. And I want to introduce Matt to you, and he's going to walk us through the nuts and bolts of that cost slide, how we're going to pay for it. Matt's been invaluable through this process because he's been the numbers dude, and he's been the he has to play good cop and bad cop. No, we can't afford that. Yes, that's a possibility. He's been one that rolling up his sleeves, trying to wrestle mortgages and find the best rates and find the best possibilities. And so Matt has been an elder for how many years now? A couple, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Feels like 10, but I think
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
2015, so I'm going on 4.
Cool. Matt, walk us through this next slide.
Yeah. Right. So as Mike said, we're going to be buying the land for about $2.25 million. Jamie and John have looked at it and come back to us and said renovations to get it to where we want to have it, about $2.4 million. We're estimating there's going to be about $125,000 of cost to move out of here, potentially put this building back to the way we got it. And then another $50,000 for NEC West multi-site, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. So all in, we're looking at about $4.825 million of cost. We've been approved for a $2 million mortgage, and we feel like with that mortgage we can actually we can afford it and be stable. It actually saves us in our operating budget about $120,000 annually. So it gets our building costs from roughly 40% of our budget down to about 25% of our annual budget, which is much more sustainable. So it'll be a $2 million mortgage. We've got about $225,000 in our breakthrough fund. And the last bit of it's going to be $2.6 million that we believe we can raise. We've done some initial studies and interviews with some givers, and we believe we can raise about $2.6 million for the project.
Yep. Yeah, and so 2.6 is a big number, but that's a vetted number. And but it's going to mean we're rolling up our sleeves and we're all in. And the dangerous part about giving me a mic is I often say stuff that I shouldn't say yet, but I hope this is all right. But we've been in this feasibility silent phase, trying to figure things out, and we haven't really got an ask out yet to anybody really. And we've raised $500,000, and so that's before start. But we still got 2.1 to go. Okay. So it's gonna take everybody and their brother, including folks who love NEC but have moved to Florida or different. It's gonna take an all in, but it's feasible, and the opportunity is ours.
Hey, just quickly too, he's not here, but there's gonna be a lot of excitement around this, and Bob DeLave's actually away right now, but I would say anybody that knows Bob, just please reach out and thank him. Bob was pivotal in all this. We had Bob probably literally knocking on every building in this town and surrounding towns. Bob was a lot of part of he'd bring us ideas, we'd look at it. I'd either say no to him or I'd say, let's ask Jamie and John, and then Jamie and John would say no to him. He was pivotal in all this, so I just want to give him a shout out through this too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish we could bring everyone up so far who's been invested in this quiet phase, and we would have loved to kept you informed, but we kept. You're probably like, don't tell us anything until you're ready, because we got so close to so many properties and they just didn't materialize, and so it's been all the analyses. There we go. There's just been a lot of people involved in this. It's been a very heavily investigated, heavily vetted opportunity. I want to talk about timing a little bit. And so from a construction standpoint, timing is not a huge issue. Our lease ends November 30th. The biggest issue is a cash a fluidity issue. And so pretty much you need that money up front in order to build, we could burn through $2.4 million in 4 or 5 months. And so what we're going to do is kick off this campaign where we're going to try to raise money over a 3-year period. And any money we can initially collect up front will go towards that. And then we'll take what they call bridge funding. And we'll take a loan that the pledges of the campaign will pay off. And that allows us to get money up front so that we can have construction and get into the building. Now, depending, so if we get all the money up front, if we get enough of the bridge funding and enough of the initial pledges up front, we could start right away. If it's going to take a few more months, then we have to delay the start a little bit. And so when we get in, will be determined not so much by construction time, because that's relatively quick for a remodel over a new build, but it'll depend more on our cash fluidity. And so, but we are troubleshooting and scenarioizing all different kinds of schedules, but we'll keep you posted on that. Heather and Kevin are co-chairing our communications and marketing team, and they have done an amazing job. If you go on our website, it's fantastic. There's so much information, and it'll continually be updated. And so, Kemskis, tell us what we can expect next.
Thanks for introducing us, Mike. When he starts talking numbers, I don't know what happens to my brain, but it's when he wants to talk about family finances, the same thing happens. But seriously, how psyched are you guys that we have a building? Okay, so Kevin and I have been part of the silent phase, but there's been a lot of people working behind the scenes. So we have a great communications team, and it was interesting trying to build communication around a lot of things that are unknown. But God has been with us, and He has been good. And He also helped us develop what we're going to use as our campaign during this time. Many of you might remember when we were going to expand NEC from one section of this building to another, we called it Breakthrough. This time around, with the talents of Christy Mulligan, we have created this logo, NEC 2020 See Us Grow. We want you to know this kind of logo for it, this symbol for it, and I want to explain the why behind it really quickly. NEC, self-explanatory. Anyone has questions, I'll answer about that. But 2020 is so cool because it has a couple of really neat meanings. You'll see that Christy put a tree right in the middle of it. 2020, perfect vision. We want our mission and our vision to be very much a part of this campaign and finding a permanent home for NEC. It also denotes the fact that we're in our 20th anniversary of NEC. And 2020 will be the first full year that we'll be in our new permanent location. So, and then See Us Grow. Mike talked about that already, about our vision and our visibility. You guys, we're going to be on 140. I can walk to McDonald's. Not safely, but I can go to the Minute Clinic. Rhapsody, has anyone been there? We're super excited that NEC is going to be taking a building that's iconic in that town. So see us. The word us, this is all of ours, you guys. This is God's ultimately, but it is us. If you have been behind the scenes, please don't be shy for a minute. Do me a favor and raise your hand. If you've been behind the scenes, whether in finance, communications, anything, events planning, I know who you are. Just raise your hands. Go, please, please. Look around. Now, thank you for that. Now, everyone, as a form of physical exercise, raise your hand. Everybody. This is how many people the next time I ask, have you been involved? And I'm not saying that to say, okay, you need to, whatever way you're going to be a part of it, you are in it, and everything from prayer to donations to just being a part of this. And I'm going to get into that more, but that's the us and grow. We want to grow missionally. We want to grow in our impact. We want to grow in our community service. Next.
Thanks, dear. I'm Kevin, and one thing I wanted to go over is we have assembled a ton of information, and right now, if you go up to newenglandchapel.org/NEC-2020, you will get, I think there's a slide come next, there should be. There we go. There's everything in there that we have right now. Highlights about the property itself, some ideas about potentially what this property is going to be taking, how it's going to be taking shape, and there's details about the capital campaign, the numbers that Matt just went through. There is also a page that I think we're gonna flip on maybe over the next few days, and it has everything you need to know about opportunities for giving, how we're going to raise this money, raise these funds to make this happen. This website really is going to be sort of your kind of hub for all information about this new building, the capital campaign, our fundraising efforts. Anything to do with this new building is going to be sort of centralized on this site. And the detailed FAQ is probably going to be the place that's most visited, because there are probably about 30 questions and answers up there. If you want to, I encourage all of you to take a good look at that. It'll explain a lot about some things that were already talked about, and possibly some things that haven't come up. If you don't see something on there that's addressed, we have a way for you to give us feedback. There is actually a button on the website to submit questions or comments. And if you have a question, that kicks off an email to me and a few other people. We will get those emails, and we will be able to answer you back for your questions. So we have a mechanism to take your feedback. And we hope that you visit this site regularly, because we plan to update this thing weekly. We're going to post videos. We're going to post new messages and updates about the news about this property. When there's a chance that we can actually physically get in there with a camera, we want to shoot a video of what things look like and what stage we're at. And maybe if Jamie lets us in during the building phase, we'll actually go and see guys tearing down things and building things. But we want to take all of you on this journey, and the website is going to be our window into that.
And then we also, there'll be opportunities for all of us to get engaged, because you all just volunteered when you raised your hands. We're going to utilize our Next Steps booth area for anyone who's interested to helping out or finding out ways that those opportunities will grow as everything starts going at a pace. So Kim Bradshaw and our great crew at Next Steps will help, and we'll have opportunities like that online too.
Yeah, I think there was a slide up there, but they're going to be volunteer teams assembled for things like designing the interior and environments, and a moving committee, and painting, and sound, and AV. So if there's things that interest you, we're going to assemble teams to help get involved, volunteers involved in this, because and certainly prayer. We're going to need a lot of it, because this is a major step forward. And then finally, one more slide is we want you all to save the date. March 30th is going to be big, because this is what we're calling our NEC 2020 Vision Night. Help us grow. And Mike and John, and basically all the folks that have been involved in the behind-the-scenes aspects of this whole project are going to be unveiling even more details. By that time, we should have floor plans and perhaps even architectural renderings of what this property will look like when it is completed. Mike and the team, and probably some old faces, NEC faces from the past, are going to be on hand to really lay out the vision, not just what a new building represents, but what this is going to help us do as a church to connect in a greater way with the community, and hopefully for them to, at some level, connect more with God. So, March 30th, 4 to 6 p.m. It is being held at the Franklin Country Club, and we are going to, right now on the website, you can actually go up there, there's a save the date section, and there is a place for you to register. We have limited seating at this venue. And if you want to be a part of this, we hope you do. It's going to be a great night. We need you to go up there, RSVP, no later than March 15th. We actually think this is going to fill up quicker and we're going to be at capacity. So go up online, register, be part of this really exciting event that we're going to have on March 30th. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks. So why don't we just wrap up? Cliff, Kevin, can you hand the? Thank you.
Hey, yeah, before I close this in prayer, two quick things. One is that, I don't know if you know this, but our head pastor just got a new full-time job. It's called Find Us a Building. And he's really thrown probably more hours into securing this building than even doing the hard work of being a pastor. So I think he deserves a round of applause. Come on, man. You know it's true. I mean, he's been going flat out. So I definitely appreciate all the work that you've done. This is going to be your legacy. That's
Well,
that's
and
really
I found a place I could walk to.
cool. Yeah, yeah. It just happens to be right next to his house.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is, where do we put this, like theologically? Where does what's happening fit into God's work in the world? If you read Genesis, the first few chapters of Genesis, God does this funny thing where he makes the universe, and then he puts the stars there, right? And then he makes the ocean, and then he puts the fish there. He makes the sky, and he puts the birds there. He makes the land, and he puts the animals there. He makes the Garden of Eden, and he puts us there. God makes a home for those he loves. And God has made a home for us.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
That's yeah. It's a really important sort of idea in Scripture. The most important part of the Bible probably is the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and they are entirely about Israel finding a home in the Promised Land and God bringing them home. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Jesus' favorite book, by the way, Deuteronomy. It's all about God bringing his people home. And so there's 3 things I want to pull out of that. One is that God loves us, right? And this was Israel's evidence to them that God loved them, that he was making a home for them and bringing them to it. This is our evidence that God loves us and is bringing us home. 2, there's an awful lot of work that goes into that, right? Because, when, God made Eden, but guess what? We had to work Eden, right? You had to name the animals and you had to grow the stuff. God was bringing Israel into the Promised Land, but that was just the beginning of the work, right? The real work started then, where they had to conquer the land and settle it and grow stuff. I'm remembering this part of the New Testament where Jesus is looking at the harvest fields. He's like, these people are ready to go. Who's going to go out and bring them in? The work is really just beginning, and so I want to encourage you to use this. If you haven't really sort of found your niche volunteering wise, now's the time, because we'll need all the help, all the effort that we can get. Yeah, and then the third thing. As Israel was coming to the Promised Land, that was the most formative period of their history. Everything that was important in all the Bible started in that period in between the Exodus and coming into the Promised Land. That's when they found out who they were. That's when they found out who their God was. That's when they received the law. This is going to be a formative period for us, and it's really important that we pull together and shoulder this burden together. And I'm excited because that was the start of a lot of good things. So.
Thanks.
Let me pray first and we're done. God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for giving us a home. And God, set tasks for us, but tasks that are doable. God, I pray that, maybe some of the weight comes off of Mike's shoulders. I know he's been bearing a burden largely silently for years on this. God, help this to be an opportunity for us to come together and to get excited about something. I'm thinking like all those great festivals from the Old Testament, like Passover, like the Feast of Weeks, they're all based on this idea of celebrating that you were bringing Israel home. God, cause us to celebrate. Cause us to find joy in this time. We want to be formed in this next year, right? This is the formative time for this church. Form us in joy. And in a recognition that you love us, that you're bringing us home, and that a recognition that we have a place where we can do the good work, where we can see the harvest field and start to bring in the harvest for you. So I pray for that, and I thank you for all these people. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thanks. What do you guys think? Let's open it up to some Q&A.
And I could be a mic runner for folks who want to ask questions. Anyone got a question? Yes.
Hi, I'm Jess. I was really inspired the last time you went sort of public when we got close the last time or two about the vision. And so for anybody that's new in the room, if you just could briefly highlight how you plan to take this space and blow it up 2020. Again, I know there's a lot of really great ideas developing, but
Well,
yeah.
thanks, Jess. I tend to think several steps ahead of myself, and so luckily these folk keep me line. And so a lot of these ideas are phase ideas, right? But the cool thing about this property, it's 7.6 acres, and a lot of it is undeveloped. And we've always wanted to have to go to Franklin and say, what's your biggest need? And we've done some of that survey in the past, and it's been meeting space and fields. And so if that's still the case, there's the ability to say, all right, we have a Franklin soccer field in the back half of our property. There's ability to say, all right, phase 2, let's create a sanctuary shell separate to that building and use our old sanctuary to divvy up to make community space, maker space, meeting space. And so we want to become a community-centric location. And so that's the greater vision. Getting in the front door is our first step. Yep.
Other questions?
So first question is, I think you said it was the new building's 20,000 square foot, but can you just give us a quick recap of what do we have here?
Yep.
And what does that look like over there?
Yep. Yeah. So we started with 10,000, and then we broke through and added this total place is 28.5, right? So almost 29. So we're reducing our footprint, but if you notice, there's a lot of the flow and the space because we added on and didn't plan it all, get a chance to plan it all initially, and because of the way parking is, there's a lot of wasted space. In this room alone, look at all this square footage here, look at all the square footage in the back. We never use our foyer the way it's laid out. There's so much ways to save space. And so all the properties we were looking at were 20,000. This happens to be 21,500. So we'll be able to get in and adequately lay out our ministry space so that it doesn't feel like, oh man, it doesn't feel like it's too small of a space. And frankly, there's an affordability level. And really 20,000 are at our affordability level. And so now if we go gangbusters and come in at 3.6 instead of 2.6, all day long, build that shell. So there's going to be a reduction in space of about 8,000 square feet, but we think we can make that up in how we lay things out, truing up the actual size we need for rooms.
Over here, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
I got my marketing hat on. Is there any chance of selling pins or balls or pieces of parquet floor?
Yeah. You know what? There is one unique thing. If you notice, there's two big billboards on there. Now, billboards have kind of been outlawed in Franklin, and so we don't know if we're going to get grandfathered in, but there might be some rental income off those potentially. That's kind of a wait and see. Unfortunately, there's no pins or balls left, so we can't sell those, but we can grab hold of the lanes and utilize them. Yeah.
Other questions? All right, Lori, right over there.
sorry, I'm answering these. Feel free to chime in if you just.
Can we build up and put the offices upstairs?
Yeah. John, grab that mic for a quick second. Oh, no, all right. Oh, we only have one, sorry.
Yeah, there's a couple of options. Going back to what Mike said about the square footage, what we're going to do is, because of the way this laid out and the way we used it, efficiency wasn't really the top priority. Now because it is our space, we want the space to be used double duty, that it's constantly being used for a variety of things, so we're going to make it much more flexible. But then the other option we have, which was very important, was the second floor on the left-hand side of the building as you go through the entrance was set up initially for a second floor, so we do have the potential to add a second floor there. We would have to put an elevator in, but that we could put offices, we could put additional classrooms, we could put other stuff upstairs.
All right, Eric. Yeah, you do. We're going to record you. We're going to record all these questions.
When we broke through here, there was a lot of office space and stuff in here that we had to get rid of. So we utilized people in here. I was part of the demolition program here. Do we have that option over there? To utilize ourselves to save money?
Yeah, so
to
we've
get rid of the stuff that's in there?
we've identified some areas, and painting especially is one area that we could save a lot of money. And so volunteers painted this sanctuary in very short order, and Amy and Dina organized that, and that was fantastic. So there are ways, if there's a safe, reliable way to utilize us as an army, we'll do that. Demo, it probably won't be in that. It's actually, if you go in there now, it looks dangerous. And so things have to be like just, yeah. But we'll organize a volunteer army and apply us to the projects that are safe and reasonable to save some cash.
One quick thing to add. Sorry to make you jog up here. There's also the project of getting us out of this building. Anyone who has moved, there's 20 years worth of stuff. So we'll be looking to have help to do that as well.
Yeah, and that'll save.
Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Donna in the back.
Oh, all right. Get my steps in.
So we all know that the bowling alley and the parking lot are the property. To the left is Keegan Chevrolet or whatever. Is that part? Is that part of this? Does the property go back into the wooded area?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if you ever walk there, there's a path that goes there, and it's actually a pretty path. You can actually sit. Here's something cool that a couple handfuls of us maybe have walked that and prayed on the little bridge there, back 20 years ago. And I know Chris was one of them. Brian took me when I first came back to New England Chapel. We prayed back in those that pathway, and so there's trails back there. And if you ever walk back there, there's a paved road that goes back to like a water station, a DPW station. And as soon as the road takes a left, that's where the property ends. And so it goes back there pretty far. And what was your first question, Donna? Oh yeah, the adjacent property is that's like 6.5 acres. That's a separate parcel. I haven't heard what's going to become of that.
Okay, my next comment, I guess, is, so bowling shoes and bowling shirts are acceptable to wear to church now?
Yeah, maybe it's going to be new staff attire. Yeah.
Mike's going to get a new bowling shirt to wear during his sermons. Another one, all right.
So you said you have to be out of here by November 30th.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts on how long it'll take to move out of here? And will there be a lapse in services? Will there be some time?
Yep.
How you can work that?
Yep. So if we're able to get all our funding liquid and able to disperse for construction on time, or not on time, there's no real on time, but upfront, so that construction can be completed before November 30th, then we'll still have an overlap because we can't move all these chairs and lights and stuff. And so we've been looking into the possibilities of going back to the schools for a couple weeks or longer if we need to. And the high school auditorium is available for us. The middle school auditorium is available for us. Then that raises the question, what about our small groups and midweek stuff that meet here? Well, we'll have to just wait and see how long that gap's going to be, and whether or not we have occupancy yet on the new property. But my hopes is that we could use our partner organizations like the Y and the library and other peer churches that might be able to accommodate some of our midweek stuff while we're trying to buy time. It's kind of a wait and see, and what decisions we'll have to make, and which ones we won't have. But I think we have enough friends and opportunities that we could tackle that in a reasonable way.
Who else?
All right, Lori. A twofer.
I tried to get Gwen to ask this question. Can we keep a couple lanes open for our kids?
That's been the biggest question, Lori.
For our kids?
Yeah. No, for the kids. We'll do it for the kids. I don't think we can. I think we need to utilize all that space. Actually, when I walked in, that was kind of like a little hope. And then when you just see how massive those lanes are, you're like, oh, we're gonna, that would take up like 3 rooms, And so, but some of the ideas were paneling, conference table made out of a bowling lane, some hallway space, So there's some cool ways that we can sort of save and throw a bone to the legacy of that fun institution.
I'm going to make you guys some Fixer Upper Demo Day t-shirts.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.